Hey everyone, Sev here. Today I'm here to go over my Snake-eyes Fire King Azamina deck profile for the current format. And this is honestly the deck that's probably going to get me back into the game, and I'm probably going to try to play somewhat competitively this format because I really like this deck, and I think it's actually probably one of the more competitive decks I've built in the last few formats, I suppose. So, getting on into the main deck. Starting off with our Fire King lineup, we have two copies of Sacred Fire King Garunix. Basically, the main monster in the Fire King lineup. Basically, whenever a fire monster is destroyed from hand, field, or whatever, you can special summon him from your hand or graveyard. And then on summon, he destroys one Fire King monster in your deck, and usually from that point on you get more effects. And with the release from Rage of the Abyss of Fire King Courtier Olkinix, this is essentially a free rank 8 or a free link 2, which if you have other materials on board, the link 2 can be valuable, but if you play the card I have in the extra deck, this card could essentially just snowball you into your combo and is very useful. Next up is two copies of Legendary Fire King Ponix. Now what Ponix does is it is a level 1 fire monster that on normal or special summon can add yourself a Fire King spell trap. Normally if you don't have Island or Sanctuary in hand, you add the Sanctuary, which activates the Island from your deck, and if a fire monster is destroyed while you control this card in your hand, you can special summon it for free, and if it's destroyed during the next standby phase, you add it back. So really great recursion, a way to add your Fire King spells and traps. And also it's an add-off Snake-eyes Ash, which is pretty useful. Next we have two copies of Fire King Arvada, or Avatar Arvada. Yeah, missed a word there. Basically this is a level 4 monster, which is essentially a monster negate by destroying another Fire King or another fire monster that you control. Although this one is decently difficult to get out, but with things like Promethean Princess, High Avatar Kirin, and I'm trying to think, there's probably another way to revive this, to be honest, but also when it is destroyed, you can target another Fire King monster in your graveyard, special summon it with its effects negated. Again, another way to recur resources, get link material, or even exceed material. Then three copies of Fire King High Avatar Kirin. This is like your main interruption because on the opponent's turn, from the hand, it can destroy a Fire King you control, special summoning itself, and then popping a card. Wait, no. Never mind, I'm lying. That's a second effect. But when it's destroyed, you can revive, you can summon a Fire King from your graveyard or your hand, and then destroy a card on the field. However, because all the Fire Kings get their effects based upon destruction, basically destroying something during your turn adds this interruption for your opponent and can help you build out your board. And if you have Sanctuary on the field and you summon Sacred Fire King Garunix and this in the same turn, that's essentially a Hyang, which just nukes the board. So again, there's plenty of disruption potential here, plus it's an extender on your own turn and can help you through awkward hands like having just too many, not enough easily accessible fires that do something alone. Then the card that probably saved this deck for budget players, Fire King Courtier Olkinix. What Olkinix does is upon normal or special summon, you can destroy one other fire monster you control, and then add one fire monster from your deck to your hand, and Olkinix's level becomes the level of the added monster. And then when Olkinix is destroyed, you can special summon one, I think it's Fire King High Avatar Garunix from your deck. Only your deck, which kind of sucks, which makes it a brick, but, I mean, small price to pay for essentially a multi-use tool, which can add any of your Fire Kings, destroy your Fire Kings, and if you add a Sacred Fire King Garunix, is just a 1.5 card rank 8, which with the right rank 8s can essentially snowball you into combo. Now this one is a bit more personal taste. Fire King Avatar Rangbali. Now, what Rangbali is, it is a counterpart to what's his guy's name? Arvada. So where Arvada negates monster effects, Rangbali negates spell and trap effects. And with things like Dominus Purge and Dominus Impulse now being in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game, spell and trap negation is a bit more important. And with Impulse being around $80, and this being a somewhat budget list, Rangbali is more important than ever. However, if you can afford Impulses or Purges, this is very cuttable, and you can add things which I'm currently missing a card from my Snake-eyes portion of the deck because I'm stupid and didn't order it. But it is probably very essential for the deck. Then for the brick, we have Fire King High Avatar Garunix. You really only play this because of Ulcanix. If you didn't play Ulcanix, you didn't play that card. And that's just the bottom line. Then for the only two Fire King spells and traps, we're playing one Island and one Sanctuary. Sanctuary can play Island directly from the deck and protect it from destruction. Also, on the opponent's turn, if you have two level 8 monsters, you can make Garunix Eternity Hyang. And then Fire King Island, what it does is you can destroy a fire monster in a monster in your hand and add a Fire King monster. And then there's also another effect where if you control no monsters, you can special summon a Fire King from your graveyard. But that's not really used. But also, if it's removed from the field at all, it just blows up your entire board, which is a bit of a downside, but with your Fire Kings coming back upon destruction most of the time, it's really not all that much of a downside. Although, if you have non-Fire King negates, then it's a problem. And then that is all for the Fire King portion of the deck. Moving on to our very limited Snake-eyes portion. We have one copy of Snake-eye Ash. If you're familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh, and especially in the modern competitive scene, you know what Snake-eyes Ash does, but just in case, Snake-eyes Ash is a level 1 fire monster, which normal special summon, adds a level 1 fire monster from deck to hand, and can send itself and another card on the field to summon any Snake-eyes monster from your deck. It's at 1 for a very specific reason. So is Snake-eyes Poplar. When Poplar is added from deck to hand except by drawing it, you can special summon it immediately. And when it's sent to the graveyard, you can target a monster in your graveyard and set it to your spell and trap zone. That second effect isn't as useful in this build because OSS isn't a card in the format anymore because it got banned. Side tangent, I'm still pretty upset about that because I literally ordered it like 2 days before it got banned, and then the ban list came out and I just cried. I'm like, dude, I spent like $5 on this card, and I'm not even going to be able to use it. But that's personal grievances aside. Now, if I was a competent human being, which I'm not, Snake-eyes Oak would be next. However, I didn't order my Oak when I should have, because I think my brain just gaslit itself into believing I had it when I didn't. So I don't... Again, you shouldn't look up to me, but just imagine there's an Oak here, and with Oak and Poplar in the spell trap zone, you can summon Snake-eyes Flameburge Dragon. Flameburge has been considered a problem for many a format at this point. I still think it's kind of crazy that it has one of the most powerful forms of removal that we have seen entirely in Yu-Gi-Oh! But that's neither here nor there. When it's sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 2 level 1 fire monsters from your graveyard. Not Snake-eyes, it's not limited to Snake-eyes monsters, so you can summon back your Ponix if you just have like an Ash and Ponix in graveyard. And this card is just insane at just keeping combo going. And then it wouldn't be complete without 3 copies of Bonfire, because Rhoda for Snake-eyes Ash is crazy. Now for the Sinful Spoils portion, we're playing 3 Black Witch. Basically, this card is similar to Grapha, the OG Grapha, and Bestial Lubellion, where it doesn't activate. You send a card from your hand to the hand or field to the graveyard, special summon it, and on normal or special summon, it sets a Sinful Spoils spell trap from your deck to your field. Now, originally this was used to set OSS. However, since that's banned, we have to go a little bit different. Now, the next card you don't necessarily want to set off of it because there's just one better option, but we have 3 copies of Wanted, Seeker of the Sinful Spoils. This card's been around for, I think at this point, a year. So basically what it does is it adds a Diabell Star, it adds Black Witch, and then you can banish it and then target one other Sinful Spoils spell trap in your graveyard, set it to the bottom of your deck, and then draw a card. Then, this card is new, pretty new, very new actually, Deception of the Sinful Spoils. This is a part of the new Azamina archetype, which you contribute 1 monster from your field or hand, add 1 the Hallowed Azamina from the deck to the hand. It also has a few other effects where I think it can burn for 15. Or no, you gain 15, my apologies. But also the turn it's sent to the graveyard, if it's still in the graveyard, you can set it back to your field so it recurs itself. There is a reason why that's about $30 right now, and if you can't afford that, that's more than fine. Fire King is luckily a very budget deck that you can play, and you can be relatively successful with this format, which is always very nice. Then we have its companion piece, the Hallowed Azamina. And these two are basically evidence that fusion summoning has kind of gone off the rails, because with the Hallowed Azamina, you can basically fusion summon with just 1 card, whereas opposed you would need 2 monsters and the spell or trap. However, now you just need to send Deception or Wanted, and you have either your Mu or your Elia. However, the Hallowed Azamina, hard once per turn, can target an Azamina fusion monster that you control or in your graveyard, return it to the extra deck, and you can add this card from your graveyard back to your hand for you to reuse if you have another Sinful Spoils trap to send off of it. Then the next is just, some key one-ofs. Pot of Prosperity, Called by the Grave, and 1 for 1. Called by the Grave to prevent from hand disruptions like Effect Veiler, Ghost Mourner, Droll and Lockbird, the Mulch Armies, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit is also decently popular in this format. And Prosperity is just another consistency piece. And 1 for 1, because getting almost your full combo off of 1.5 cards is pretty crazy. Oops. And then for our crossout package, obviously playing the 3 crossout designator, 1 Infinite Impermanence, 1 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 1 Droll and Lockbird, 1 Effect Veiler, and 1 Nibiru the Primal Being. If you don't want to play a crossout package, you can swap this for hand traps, 3 Ash, 3 Imperm, and maybe 2 Veilers or 2 Ogres or whatever you feel it would be more prominent is more than fine. Or if you have the Mulch Armies, you can play the Mulch Armies instead of the crossout package. Whatever is your personal preference. I personally hate being interrupted, so I think the crossout package will do just nicely for me, and it's a more budget option at this point in the competitive landscape. Now onto the extra deck. The only 2 Azamina fusion monsters we're playing right now. We're playing Azamina Mu Arcielago. Basically, on normal or special summon, it can add 1 Sinful Spoils card from your deck to your hand, and then, when it's destroyed, you can add a Sinful Spoils spell card from your deck to your hand. I do a weird combo where it's really just get more, where I do a whole thing with Fire King Island, mainly if I have Ulcanex or a way to get to Ulcanex, but this card essentially can get me fully set up for my turn, and then Elia Silva is essentially a negate, and you can Nibiru proof yourself within 2 summons if you do it with just summoning Black Witch and then Mu, but Elia is just really convenient. When it's destroyed, you can add a Sinful Spoils trap from deck to hand. You're not playing any because none are really that good, but Elia is honestly an absolute lifesaver because of how important it is you get it out. And for our brief XC lineup, we're playing 1, the Zombie Vampire. Basically, the ability to turn a Sacred Fire King Garunix and an Ulcanix into any summon from your deck as long as you mill it is pretty crazy. But there are times where you just hit all spells and you got to take something from your opponent. But for the most part, this card is decently consistent, and honestly, it's pretty fun too. Number 38, Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy. If you want to replace this with number 90 Galaxy Photon Dragon, Photon Lord or something like that. You can. That's essentially this is a spell trap negate. Photon Lord is a monster negate instead. So again, it's basically more personal preference. I have number 38 currently in my possession, so therefore I am playing it. And then 1 copy of Garunix Eternity Hyong of the Fire Kings. Basically, upon summon, this can nuke your opponent's entire board, and when it's destroyed, you can summon back its materials from your graveyard. Again, a very slim Xyz count, but moving on to the links. There is 1 link monster I am currently missing. I just don't know where it is currently in my collection. I believe it is still in my dorm room in Milwaukee, but it's Relinquished Anima. It's a Link 1 monster that can turn any Link 1 into, or level 1 in the Relinquished Anima. So, first up for the Link 2s, we're playing Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf. When a monster is summoned to its Link Arrow, you can target a fire monster in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. More often than not, you add back Avatar Kirin. Due to the interruption it can add on your opponent's turn, or if you haven't used it yet, you can use it for your own turn. And then next we're playing Hida the Fire Charmer Ablaze. Due to the popularity of something like Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, Hida is usable, and because the Zombie Vampire can turn one of your opponent's monsters into a level 8 for its use, it's not a horrible thing if your opponent Ash Blossoms you at some point in your turn. And then Promethean Princess, Bestower of Flames. Not only can it revive any fire monster from your grave back to your field, it also adds interruption. When your opponent special summons a monster, it can summon itself and destroy a fire monster you control and the monster that they control. And then Ambler Whale. Not the best Fire Link 4 you could run, but it's one of the cheaper ones. If you want to run Salamangreat Raging Phoenix, then that is probably the superior option, as it also works with the Zealantis OTK. However, if you're more of a budget player, Ambler Whale will do you just fine. If it's destroyed, which both your Arvada and Rangbali, which are things you want to end on, destroy, you can summon back really any one of the Link monsters in your graveyard. So if you want to make an IP, you can summon that back and then, do SP plays as well. Speaking of which, we have IP Masquerena and SP Little Knight. So IP Masquerena, what she does is on your opponent's turn, you can link summon using her and whatever monsters you want to make any Link monster within that's legal. And then we have SP Little Knight, which if it uses an extra deck monster for material, can target a card on the field and banish it. You just can't attack that turn, but if you're doing it on your opponent's turn, you weren't planning on attacking on that turn anyway. And then when your opponent activates a card, you can target one card you control and one card the opponent controls and banish both. And then this one is mainly kind of filler. Doolittle Chimera is just like a generic fire support card. There was one other, I don't know, I can't think of a better slot for this currently, but I know it exists. You could, if you wanted to, you could probably play Nightmare Phoenix or Nightmare Unicorn in its stead, but for now, Doolittle Chimera will do just fine. Or if you wanted to play Selene, that is also an option too. Then we have Access Code Talker. This card's been around for, I think at this point, like 3 or 4 years, so its effect is known. It's a crazy OTK tool. And then we have White Woman Jump Scare, Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. Very useful for just getting around generic towers monsters, and you can vomit at a lot of monsters on the field, so getting to Underworld Goddess is not necessarily an issue. Alright, so that is my Fire King Snake-eyes Azamina deck profile for the current December 2024 format. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. I know it's been a really long time since I've uploaded. I've just been really busy with school. I actually didn't bring any of my Yu-Gi-Oh stuff down with me because I'm just, again, really busy at university, but I'm probably going to try to do a little bit more, especially now that I'm on winter break. I kind of have nothing but time on my hands. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.